The message came while I was standing in front of my closet, holding the dress I had bought 3 months ago for my brother's wedding. It was a soft navy wrap dress, elegant but simple, the kind of thing you wear when you want to look presentable without stealing attention. I'd even had it altered slightly at the waist because I wanted everything to be perfect. Not for me, for him. For family. For the idea that no matter what had happened between us over the years, a wedding was a line you didn't cross without showing up. My phone buzzed on the dresser. I glanced down, expecting a last-minute detail. Seating chart, address, some irritated request from my mother about flowers. Instead, it was my brother, Derek. Derek, don't come tomorrow. I stared at the words, frozen. A second message followed immediately. Derek, Natalie doesn't want you there. She thinks you're pathetic. My stomach tightened so fast it felt like someone had yanked a rope inside me. Pathetic. I read it again, hoping I'd misunderstood. Hoping it was a cruel joke. Hoping my eyes were glitching. But the words stayed. The room suddenly felt too quiet, too bright, too unreal. My fingers trembled as I typed back. Me. What are you talking about? I'm your sister. 3 dots appeared. Then. Derek. It's complicated. Just, don't show up. It'll be better for everyone. Better for everyone. I sank slowly onto the edge of my bed, the dress slipping from my hands onto the carpet like something discarded. I thought back to when Derek proposed. He'd called me late at night, breathless, excited. She said yes, he'd shouted. I'd screamed congratulations, genuinely happy for him. I'd even offered to help with the planning. I'd helped him review contracts. I'd suggested venues. I'd written checks for small deposits when he was short on cash because weddings were expensive, and he'd said, I'll pay you back, sis, you always save me. Always save me. And now, a day before the wedding, I was pathetic. My phone buzzed again. This time, my mother. Mom. Derek says you're upset. Don't make this about you. Natalie has anxiety. Be understanding. I stared at the text, disbelief curdling into something darker. Not make it about me. As if being banned from my own brother's wedding was an inconvenience I was causing. Me. He told me his wife thinks I'm pathetic. Mom. Natalie is under stress. And honestly, you can be intense. Just let it go for one day. Intense. That was their favorite word when they meant inconvenient. I didn't respond. My hand moved on its own, opening the wedding website Derek had sent months ago. The itinerary was still there. Ceremony at 4 p.m. Reception at 6. Honeymoon flight departing Sunday morning. Honeymoon. Something in my chest shifted. Because there was something Derek and my mother seemed to have forgotten. The honeymoon wasn't paid for by Derek. It was paid for by me. Not as a gift exactly. As a favor. 2 weeks earlier, Derek had called, frantic. Natalie wants Bora Bora, he'd said, voice strained. It's insane expensive, but she says if we don't do it right, it'll feel cheap. I'd laughed. Weddings aren't about luxury. She'll leave me, he'd whispered. I'd gone quiet then, because Derek always knew how to make desperation sound like love. So I did what I always did. I helped. I booked the resort under my travel account, because I had points and a corporate discount through my firm. I paid the deposit. Derek promised he'd reimburse me after wedding gifts came in. He never did. The confirmation email was still in my inbox. Total. $18,740. Non-refundable after 24 hours. And tomorrow was the deadline. I stared at it. Pathetic. That word echoed again. My brother didn't want me at his wedding, but he wanted my money. My effort. My silence. I stood slowly, walking to the window. Outside, the street was calm. Neighbors were watering lawns. People were living normal lives, unaware that mine had just cracked open. I could have cried. I could have begged. I could have shown up anyway, forced my way in, created a scene Natalie could point to as proof that I was intense. But then I remembered something my late father used to say. The strongest revenge is simply refusing to be used. I turned back toward my bed, toward the navy dress on the floor. And I knew, with absolute clarity, that I wasn't going to show up tomorrow. Not because Derek told me not to, but because I was done performing for people who only valued me when I was useful. My phone buzzed again. Derek, please don't blow this up. Just stay home. We'll talk after. After. Always after. After they got what they wanted. I opened my laptop. My fingers hovered over the travel booking. Cancel reservation. A warning popped up. Cancellation within 24 hours will result in full refund to original payment method. My heart pounded. I clicked. Confirm cancel. The screen refreshed. Reservation status. Cancelled. I exhaled, shaky. One move. Quiet. Legal. Final. But it wasn't enough. Because as the adrenaline faded, another truth surfaced. The honeymoon was only one thread Derek had tied around my life. There were others. Like the house. The house Derek lived in wasn't his. It was mine. 2 years ago, when he lost his job and cried about being homeless, I co-signed. Then I bought it outright under my name because my credit was stronger. Derek promised again, temporary, sis. Just until I'm stable. He'd never left. He'd never paid rent. He'd treated it like an entitlement. And now, he was banning me from his wedding in the same breath. My hands clenched. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to reclaim everything quietly. I opened a folder on my computer labeled Property. Deed. Owner, Claire Bennett. That was me. My name, not Derek's. I stared at it, feeling something settle inside me like steel. Hours later, while Derek was probably rehearsing vows about loyalty and love, I made another call. To my attorney. Elaine Harper answered on the second ring. Claire, everything okay? My voice was calm, almost disturbingly so. No, I said, but it will be. Elaine paused. What happened? My brother banned me from his wedding, I said softly. And I need to list the house. There was silence. Then Elaine's voice sharpened. Do you want him evicted? I closed my eyes, picturing Derek's smug face, the word pathetic. Yes, I whispered. I want it done properly. Immediately. Elaine exhaled. Okay, then listen carefully. If he's not on the deed, he has no ownership. We can serve a notice. Fast track the sale. But Claire, are you ready for the fallout? I opened my eyes. The navy dress lay on the floor like a shed skin. I've been swallowing fallout my whole life, I said quietly. It's their turn. Elaine's tone turned firm. Then we start tonight. I hung up, heart steady now. Outside, the sun was setting. Tomorrow, Derek would stand at an altar, believing he'd finally erased me. He had no idea that while he was cutting me out, I was cutting him off. And when the wedding ended, so would his access to everything he'd taken for granted. I didn't sleep, not because I regretted canceling the honeymoon, but because the silence after doing it felt like standing in the eye of a storm. The kind of quiet that comes right before something breaks. At 6:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. Derek. I stared at the screen until it stopped. Then it buzzed again, and again. By the fifth call, my chest was tight, but my hands were steady. I didn't answer. I already knew what was happening. He'd checked his email. He'd seen the cancellation. At 6:19, the first text arrived. Derek. What did you do? A second one came immediately after. Derek. Claire, this is insane. Fix it right now. Fix it. Like my role in the family was always to fix things they broke. At 6:23, Natalie's number appeared. I'd never saved it, but I recognized it from group texts. Natalie. How dare you cancel our honeymoon? Derek said you did it because you're jealous. Jealous. Of her. Of a wedding I wasn't even allowed to attend. I inhaled slowly, then typed back one line. Me. You called me pathetic. Consider this the consequence. 3 dots appeared, then vanished. No reply. At 7:05, my mother called. I answered this time, because avoidance wouldn't stop what was coming. Claire, Patricia snapped before I could speak. What is wrong with you? My voice was quiet. Good morning, Mom. Don't good morning me, she hissed. Derek is beside himself. Natalie is crying. Their honeymoon is cancelled. Tell me you didn't do that. I did, I said simply. There was a sharp inhale, like she'd been slapped. Are you trying to ruin your brother's wedding day? I laughed softly, bitterly. He already ruined it. He told me not to come. He said his wife thinks I'm pathetic. Patricia's tone shifted instantly into damage control. Natalie is stressed. You know how brides are. You're too sensitive. Sensitive. That word again, used like a weapon. I paid $18,000 for that trip, I said, voice steady. And I'm not funding someone who insults me and bans me like I'm trash. Patricia's voice rose. You're his sister. You don't punish family. Family doesn't humiliate you, I replied. Silence crackled. Then her voice dropped low, dangerous. Derek needs support. This wedding is important. You will rebook it. I stared at the wall, feeling the old instinct to obey trying to claw back up. But something in me was different now. No, I said. Patricia's voice turned sharp. Then don't expect to be part of this family anymore. I blinked slowly. You already said that last night, I murmured. It doesn't scare me anymore. And I hung up. My hands shook afterward, not with fear but with adrenaline. At 9:30 a.m., while Derek was probably tying his tie, Elaine Harper arrived at my apartment. Elaine was in her late 30s, all sharp edges and calm competence. She carried a folder thick enough to crush someone's denial. "Okay," she said, sitting across from me. "I pulled the deed. You're the sole owner. Derek has no legal claim. He's considered an occupant. Noah, my best friend, not my brother, had come over too. He sat on my couch, eyes dark. He thinks it's his house," Noah muttered. Elaine nodded. "People think a lot of things when someone else pays for them." She slid a document toward me. "Notice to vacate. 30 days. My throat tightened slightly. 30 days. A month until Derek would have to leave the home he'd been living in for free, the home he'd called his own. Noah leaned forward. "Can't it be faster?" Elaine's expression was measured. "It can be, if he becomes hostile. But legal is clean. Clean wins." I exhaled. "Do it," I said. Elaine nodded once. "Then we serve him today." My pulse jumped. "Today?" She glanced at her watch. "After the ceremony. We don't interrupt the wedding. We let them have their stage." My mouth curved faintly. "And then we take the floor out from under them." Elaine's eyes flickered with approval. "Exactly. I didn't go to the wedding. Instead, I sat in my apartment with Noah, staring at the clock like it was counting down to impact." At 4:02 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Elaine." Ceremony started. At 4:47 p.m. "Elaine, they're married." At 5:15 p.m. "Elaine, reception beginning." And then, at 5:32 p.m., Derek called again. I answered. His voice was raw. "Claire, what the hell is happening?" I could hear music in the background. Laughter. Clinking glasses. The party was happening without me. "I'm not sure what you mean," I said calmly. "You cancelled my honeymoon," he snapped. "Natalie is furious. People are asking questions. Mom is freaking out." I let a beat of silence pass. "And you banned me from your wedding," I replied softly. "That was Natalie," he hissed. "She didn't want drama. And I was the drama," I said. He swallowed. I could hear it. "I didn't mean pathetic," he muttered quickly. "She said it. I just repeated it. Repeated it, as if cruelty didn't count if you were only the messenger. So," I said quietly, "you chose her comfort over my dignity." He exhaled sharply. "Claire, don't do this today. Today. Always today. Never accountability." "I already did," I said. Then I hung up. Noah watched me. "You okay?" I stared at my hands. "I don't know," I admitted. "But I'm done." At 7:10 p.m., my mother texted a photo. Derek and Natalie cutting the cake. Derek smiling like nothing was wrong. Caption. "This is what you missed. Hope you're proud." I stared at it, and something in my chest twisted, not with regret, but with grief. For the version of family I'd wanted. For the sister who kept showing up. That sister was gone. At 9:03 p.m., Elaine's next message came. "Elaine. Ready." My pulse spiked. "Elaine. We're serving the notice now." I sat upright. No's voice was low. "This is it." At 9:17 p.m., Derek called again. I didn't answer. At 9:18, another call. At 9:19, a text. "Derek. There's a lawyer at my door." I stared at the screen, breathing slowly. Then another text. "Derek. What did you do, Claire?" Noah whispered, almost awed. "He's realizing." I typed one line. "Me. I reclaimed what you never appreciated." At 9:24, my mother called. I answered. Her voice was screaming now, no longer polished. "Are you evicting your brother on his wedding night?" I held the phone slightly away. 30 days, I corrected calmly. "He has 30 days. That's generous." "You're a monster," she hissed. I laughed softly. "No," I said. "I'm the monster now because I stopped being your doormat." Patricia's breath shook. "You're destroying everything." "No," I replied. "I'm exposing it." She went quiet for a moment, then her voice dropped into something colder. "Fine," she said. "If you want to play this game, you will lose more than a brother." My skin prickled. "What does that mean?" Patricia's voice was sharp. "It means you forget something, Claire." Silence. Then she delivered the sentence that made my stomach drop. "That house may be in your name, but the money you used to buy it came from family accounts." My blood went cold. Family accounts. A lie? Or something worse? Patricia continued, voice poisonous. "We can challenge it. We can drag you through court. We can make you look like you stole from us. And trust me, people will believe a grieving mother over a bitter sister." My heart hammered. This wasn't just emotional now. This was legal war. No's face went pale. She's threatening you. I whispered back, she's desperate. Patricia's voice rose again. You will undo this. You will apologize. Or we will take everything. I closed my eyes. Then I thought of something. My father hadn't said a word tonight. Only my mother. Only Derek. And suddenly, a realization hit me like ice water. This wasn't Natalie's idea. This wasn't even just Derek's. My mother had orchestrated this. The wedding ban. The humiliation. The control. And now, when she couldn't control me emotionally, she was reaching for the courts. I opened my eyes. My voice was calm. Go ahead, I said softly. Patricia froze. What? Take me to court, I repeated. Because you're forgetting something too. Patricia's breath hitched. What? I smiled faintly. I didn't buy that house with family money. Silence. Noah leaned closer, confused. I continued, voice steady. My grandmother paid for it. Patricia's voice cracked. What? And she's the one person, I said, you cannot manipulate. The line went dead quiet. Then Patricia whispered, shaken, Eleanor? Yes, Grandma Eleanor Bennett, the woman my mother feared more than any judge. Patricia's voice trembled with sudden panic. What have you told her? I leaned back. Enough. And in that moment, I knew the next move wasn't mine anymore. It was Grandma's, because tomorrow, Grandma would hear what Derek did. And when Grandma stepped in, the wedding would be the smallest thing my brother lost. The next morning, the world looked exactly the same outside my window. Cars passed. Birds sang. The sun rose like nothing had changed. But inside my apartment, everything had shifted. Noah sat at my kitchen counter, staring into a cold cup of coffee. I hadn't slept. My phone was silent now, not because the storm had passed, but because my family was regrouping. Planning. That's what they always did when they lost control. At 9:11 a.m., the doorbell rang. 3 slow chimes. Not frantic, not aggressive, controlled. I opened the door, and there she was, Grandma Eleanor Bennett. She stood in a long charcoal coat, silver hair swept back neatly, a leather folder tucked under one arm, cane in the other hand. She looked small, almost delicate. But her eyes were the sharpest thing in the room. She stepped inside and looked at me for 1 second. Then her gaze dropped to my phone on the table. Tell me, she said quietly. Noah stood awkwardly. Mrs. Bennett? Eleanor nodded at him politely, then returned her attention to me. What did he do? My throat tightened. I hadn't even told her everything yet. Only enough for my mother to panic. Now, with Grandma standing in front of me, calm and unwavering, the truth spilled out. He banned me from his wedding, I whispered. Natalie called me pathetic. Derek let her. And when I didn't obey, Mom threatened court. They think they can take the house. They think they can ruin me. Eleanor's expression didn't change, but the air did. She opened the folder slowly. Inside were documents. Official ones. Noah leaned forward slightly. What is that? Eleanor's voice was soft. My stomach tightened. Grandma, what are you doing? She looked at me, eyes steady. I spent years watching Patricia treat you like an inconvenience, she said. I stayed quiet because I hoped she would eventually become a mother. Her jaw tightened. She never did. She reached into the folder and pulled out a single page. A letterhead. A law firm. Mr. Sandoval's signature at the bottom. Eleanor laid it on the table like a blade. Do you know what this is, Claire? I shook my head. A revocation, she said simply. My breath caught. Noah whispered, revocation of what? Eleanor's eyes turned cold. Of my daughter's inheritance. The words hit like thunder. I froze. Grandma, Eleanor continued calmly. Patricia has always assumed she would inherit from me. She has built her entire sense of power on that assumption. She tapped the paper. As of this morning, she will inherit nothing. Noah's mouth fell slightly open. She can't, I whispered. She can, Eleanor corrected gently. Because I am alive, I am of sound mind. And I am done. My chest tightened with emotion. Grandma, you don't have to. I do, she cut in softly. Her voice sharpened. Because she is threatening you with courts the way abusers always do when kindness fails. Silence filled the apartment. Then Eleanor pulled out another document. And this, she said, is worse for them. I stared at the heading. Formal notice of eviction support. Signed by Eleanor Bennett. Co-owner clause activated. Noah blinked. Co-owner? I looked up, confused. Grandma's gaze was steady. When you bought that house for Derek, Claire, I didn't just help you with the funds. My stomach dropped. I structured it. Half the home is in a protected family trust, controlled by me. My breath left my lungs. So Mom can't challenge it, Noah whispered. Eleanor nodded. And Derek cannot stall it. I felt dizzy. Grandma had been protecting me even when I didn't know. Eleanor leaned back slightly. I suspected something like this would happen someday, she admitted quietly. And now it has. Before I could speak, my phone buzzed violently. Patricia. I stared at the name. Grandma nodded once. Answer. I swallowed and pressed speaker. My mother's voice exploded immediately. What did you tell her? Eleanor didn't blink. Hello, Patricia, she said calmly. Silence slammed down the line. Then Patricia's voice trembled, trying to soften instantly. Mother, I can explain. No, Eleanor said. One word. A gavel. Patricia inhaled shakily. I heard you went behind my back, she whispered. This is family business. Eleanor's tone was ice. You made it my business when you threatened my granddaughter. Patricia's voice cracked. We were trying to handle Derek's situation. Derek's situation, Eleanor repeated slowly, is that he humiliated Claire, stole her generosity, and thought he could discard her. Patricia snapped, desperation rising again. She cancelled his honeymoon. She's ruining his marriage. Eleanor's voice sharpened like a knife. He ruined his marriage the moment he married a woman who demanded cruelty as a condition of love. Silence. Patricia whispered, shaking, you don't understand. I understand perfectly, Eleanor cut in. Then her voice dropped into something terrifyingly calm. As of today, you are removed from my will. A strangled sound came from Patricia's throat. No, Mother, you can't. I already have, Eleanor replied. Patricia's breathing turned frantic. Derek needs support. Natalie's family will think. Eleanor interrupted. Derek needs consequence. Patricia's voice broke completely. You're choosing her over your own daughter. Eleanor's answer was soft. I am choosing the child you failed. The line went dead silent. Then Patricia whispered, barely audible. What do you want? Eleanor leaned forward slightly, voice final. I want you to stop. Patricia's voice trembled. And if I don't? Eleanor's eyes were merciless. Then you will lose everything you thought you owned. The call ended. My hands shook. Noah exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for years. Eleanor looked at me gently. It's not over yet, she said. I swallowed. What happens next? Her lips curved faintly. Not a smile, but a promise. Next, Derek comes begging. She was right. At 1:47 p.m., my doorbell rang again. This time frantic. No patience. No control. No dignity. I opened the door. Derek stood there. No suit. No wedding glow. Just panic. His eyes were bloodshot. His tie was undone like he hadn't slept. Claire, he rasped. Behind him, Natalie sat in the car, arms crossed, face furious. Derek swallowed hard. I didn't know Grandma would do that. I stared at him. You didn't know actions had consequences? His face twisted. Please, he whispered. Fix this. Talk to her. She's cutting Mom off. She's cutting me off too. I blinked. You thought you'd still inherit after calling me pathetic? His voice cracked. I was stressed. Natalie, stop. Grandma's voice came from behind me. Derek froze. Eleanor stepped forward slowly, cane tapping once. Derek's mouth fell open. Grandma, Eleanor's eyes were cold. You hit my granddaughter, she said quietly. Derek flinched. I didn't. You've humiliated her, Eleanor continued. You used her. You discarded her. His lips trembled. I'm sorry. Eleanor tilted her head. Are you sorry, she asked softly, or are you scared? Derek went silent. That silence was the answer. Eleanor leaned in, voice low enough to slice. You demanded respect while giving none. Derek whispered, desperate, please, I need the house. Natalie's parents think it's ours. Eleanor's gaze flicked toward the car. Then back to him. Then tell them the truth, she said. Derek swallowed. What truth? Eleanor's voice was final. That you built your life on something you never owned. His eyes filled with panic. 30 days, she continued. Then you leave. Natalie's door slammed open. She stormed up, face twisted. This is insane, she snapped. You can't throw us out. Eleanor's eyes turned to her, calm as death. And you, she said softly, are the woman who called Claire pathetic. Natalie stiffened. Eleanor's voice sharpened. Pathetic is marrying into a family and demanding cruelty as your entrance fee. Natalie's face flushed. You're old, she spat. You don't understand. Eleanor didn't raise her voice. I understand power, she said. And you have none here. Natalie's mouth opened, then closed. Because for the first time, someone wasn't afraid of her. Derek's shoulders collapsed. Claire, he whispered, please. I stared at him. At the brother who thought love was entitlement. At the family who thought I'd always fold. My voice was quiet. You banned me from your wedding. Derek's lips trembled. And hours later, I continued. I cancelled your honeymoon, sold your house, and ended all contact. His breath hitched. Noah stepped beside me, steady. Grandma's hand rested lightly on my shoulder. And in that moment, I felt something I'd never felt before. Freedom. Derek stood there, realizing too late that the sister he called pathetic was the only reason he'd ever been comfortable. Now, he had nothing. Not because I hated him, but because I finally loved myself enough to stop being used. I closed the door gently. Not in anger, in finality. Outside, Derek's sobbing cracked through the air. Inside, Grandma Eleanor poured herself another cup of tea. And for the first time in my life, the silence felt peaceful.